Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe. Jai Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe. Jai Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe. Jai Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Haladeva Mai Subhadra. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Haladeva Mai Subhadra. Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Mala Gopal, Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Mala Gopal, Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Hari Nama Sankirtana ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaga
Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Welcome. 2. Today we're going to be studying which verse? 10.9, which is the second verse of this Chatur Shloki. The 4 verses that summarize the entire Bhagavad Gita. So what is the title of this chapter? We'll start with some easy questions. What is the title of this chapter? The opulence of the Absolute. And why is Krishna speaking to us about his opulences? What is the benefit of us studying and knowing his opulences?
So we get attracted to him.
So we get attracted to Krishna. His great opulences are attractive. Yeah. And what is the ultimate result of being convinced of Krishna's opulences? Surrender. Yeah.
Having the faith that Krishna is the ultimate supreme.
Okay, so having faith that Krishna is the ultimate supreme. And what results from that surrender or that faith, that attraction? Yeah.
Cultivating the desire to serve him.
Okay, so we're getting closer and closer and closer. So cultivating the desire to serve him. And where does that culminate?
Bhakti, devotional service.
Bhakti, pure devotional service. And where does that culminate?
Love.
Love. Krishna prema. Pure bhakti. Right? So again, the 7th verse is very important. Krishna says, one who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there's no doubt. And the point here Krishna is making over and over again, he is the source of all opulences. So, when we are not in pure devotional service, it means we have some material attractions, some attractions to other activities, right? Well, the point of the matter is whatever enjoyment, happiness we are getting from those activities, actually they reside in full, unlimited amount where? In Krishna. Whatever rasa we are getting from all of our mundane material activities, they're just but a tiny glimpse of happiness experienced in devotional service. So one is convinced of this, then what do? Do they have any mundane activities? Why? Why? I agree, why, Bo?
Because none of them are satisfying.
None of them are satisfying compared to, right? Compared to unalloyed devotional service. So why do we still have material attachments?
Maya.
No, not Maya. Don't blame her.
We are not convinced.
We're not convinced. One, Krishna says, one who is factually convinced, right? Then there is no doubt. Just like if you're going into a giant desert, right? And you're trying to acquire some water from a small cactus. There's some water there. But right behind you is a giant lake. Why won't you get water from that giant lake? No, it's pure water. You're not convinced it's there.
Yeah.
One who sees that and sees, why is this person drinking water from a cactus when there's a whole lake here? It seems foolish. Right? One who can see everything, both the lake and the cactus, this person is thirsty. They're struggling for existence, desiring to have some water. Yet, why they're attached to this cactus? It's thorny. It's producing water in such limited supply. When this giant lake is available right here. But if that person is not convinced that there is some giant lake of fresh, pure water available, they'll not let go of that thorny cactus. So like that, we are attached to the thorny nature of this material world. It's constantly pricking us, constantly giving us setbacks. Yet, we're attached. So how to detach from it? We have to be convinced that there is something far beyond that. So to convince us, Krishna is speaking his opulence. To say, Aham sarvasya prabhu, I am the source of everything, even this cactus. So whatever is in this cactus, I have in full. So whatever is in this material world, it is just a reflection of him, his energies. Just like if you go to see the Taj Mahal, right? And they have these beautiful ponds in the front, right? You can look into the reflection and see the Taj Mahal, right? So if you're looking in the reflection and you're enamored by the reflection, the beauty of the Taj Mahal, I'm giving another mundane example to illustrate the point. If the reflection is so attractive, then what happens when we look up?
You see the real beauty.
How does that compare? You're now engaging with the real thing, right? This whole material world is but a reflection of the spiritual world. We're trying to enjoy the reflection when we can actually enjoy with reality. So that is how Maya convinces us that, this reflection is very nice, and we don't bother to look up and see the real. It's standing right there in front of us. That is why Krishna is speaking this chapter right after speaking the most confidential knowledge. He spoke about how powerful bhakti was, how we should do devotional service. Manmanava mad bhakto majimam. We should do these 4 things. But now to convince us of that, to take to the process of bhakti, he's speaking about his opulence. So we should understand, right? So let's read the 9th verse. We read it last week, so we'll just read it quickly, and then as promised, we're going to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita today, as Prabhupada references that in the purport. So 9th verse speaks about, what do the pure devotees do? What is the activity of the pure devotee?
Service.
Yeah, so let's see, what does Krishna say? 9th verse.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Purport?
Pure devotees, whose characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their mind cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees.
In the preliminary stage of devotional service, we relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and in the mature stage, they are actually situated in love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them there are few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies just as the seed of a tree gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahma Jyoti, effulgent in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky, also that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Goloka Vrindavana, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as the plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. This plant of devotional service is fully described in the Chaitanya thank you. Madhya Leela chapter 19. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in the love of God. Then he cannot live even a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. In such a state, a devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees, as stated in the Bhagavatam itself, 12:13-18. Srimad Bhagavatam Pranam Analam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental lectures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association.
So, we discussed this last week, and we said we would now discuss chapter 19, which in the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is summarizing a very nice conversation between. Anybody knows who's the conversation between? Between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami. So this is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Rupa Goswami. What is he instructing him on?
Devotional service.
Devotional service, on bhakti. And this chapter, this instruction that happened at Prayag for 10 days and 10 nights consecutively, it became the foundation for which book? Nectar of Devotion. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. From that, Rupa Goswami has explained the science of bhakti. It is a science, actually. It is not just some sentimental, amorphous idea. It is actually a science of how it comes and how it grows. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained very specifically how to grow this devotional service to the point of pure bhakti, love of God. Okay, so we'll discuss that. But when one attains that, what does the pure devotee do? What is the activity of the pure devotee?
Chanting
Chanting.
and talking about Krishna with other devotees.
Talking about Krishna. The pure devotee, right? Katayantas chamam nityam. Always. Because there's nothing else to talk about that is of interest to the pure devotee. What else does the pure devotee do?
Always thinking about Krishna.
They're always thinking about Krishna. Much chitta, mad, gata prana. They're all fully absorbed in Krishna. Fully thinking of Krishna, right? They have no other activity. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, Krishna says. Yeah? Just like the thoughts of a young boy attracted to a young girl, as Srila Prabhupada explains at the end. There's a natural inclination. No effort is required to think of one another. That is just a mundane example to show how the pure devotee has just a natural, deep, relishing thinking of Krishna. Okay? In our sadhana bhakti, we try to at least think of Krishna while we are chanting. Even that is difficult. And then when we put the bead bag away, right? But the pure devotee, that's all they do. Why do they do that? What is the result?
Great satisfaction.
Great satisfaction. And Tushanti and Ramanti. Satisfaction and bliss. Isn't that what we are all looking for? We want full satisfaction, not partial. The water from the cactus will give partial satisfaction. It will not quench the thirst. But drinking from the reservoir will give full satisfaction. So this is what Krishna is saying. So, how to come to bhakti? See, every activity we do, there is some seed that is given or that we receive to initiate that activity. Right? How we became attracted to, going to see a movie. Somewhere that idea came into our mind, right? That's a good idea. You'll enjoy it. And where does that idea come from? Huh?
Hearing about it.
Hearing about it. From somebody. From who?
As a teasers.
Teasers? Yeah. Somewhere the idea is given, right? What is the whole point of marketing?
Giving ideas.
To plant the seed of desire for their product. Right? That is the goal of marketing. to plant the seed of desire for their power. And what is the hope of marketing? By that seed being planted in the mind, what do they hope?
Purchase.
People will come to see them.
You'll purchase it. It will lead to action. Right? That's the goal. So, how do they plant the seed in the mind? By putting some billboard, by making some radio description, you hear maybe some visual, right? And it plants a seed of desire. And ultimately they hope that it fructifies into action, purchase, right? So like that, everything that we do, it starts with that seed. Right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining in chapter 19 that bhakti also starts with this seed. It has to come from somewhere. Right? Ultimately, Krishna is the source of everything. So he's explaining to Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami, as some of you may know, he was the finance minister for Nawab Hussain Shah. Very, very rich man. How rich he was? He had 2 boats filled with gold coins. Rich beyond anything we can even comprehend. 2 big boats filled with gold coins. Because he was in a very high position. He was a finance minister, paid handsomely for his great service. But he was fully surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anxious to give it all. He didn't want any of it, and simply engage in service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So after so many different attempts, he finally left that service. It's a long story, we won't go into it. Very nice story, but we won't go into it. And he reached Prayag, where he knew Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on his way from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan. And so there they met. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to instruct him on the science of devotional service. So he gives a couple of previews before he gets into this verse about this Bhakti Lata Bij, this seed of Bhakti. See, sometimes we don't appreciate how fortunate we are to have received the seed of bhakti. And what happens when we don't appreciate the value of something?
We don't pay attention to it.
What do we tell our children all the time? Appreciate the gifts you have. Respect the gifts you've been given. Right? That's what we were taught. That's been going on for eons. Well, we should, by hearing these verses, it'll come to appreciate the seed of bhakti that we have been given. Very rare. Very rare. Because if we don't take it for its value, we don't use it. We don't treasure it. Whatever we value, we protect. We utilize. Right? We go to great efforts. How much we go to protect our money. Extreme efforts. Because we value it. We cherish it. How much effort are we going to protect our bhakti? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, he's quoting some different verses. Out of many millions of such wise men, one may actually become liberated, mukta. And out of many, many millions of such liberated persons, a pure devotee of Krishna is very rare to find. So out of many millions of such wise people, one may become liberated. And out of millions of those who become liberated, one may become a pure devotee. So when we talk about being factually convinced of Krishna's opulences, it's a very rare achievement. He says, O great sage, out of many, many millions of material liberated people who are free from ignorance, and out of many millions of siddhas who have nearly attained perfection, there is hardly one pure devotee. Only such a devotee is actually completely satisfied and peaceful. Tushanti and Ramanti. That is text 150. Then this very famous verse 151. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to upper planetary systems, and some of them are going down into lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. So how do we acquire the seed of bhakti?
Spiritual master.
And who brings us the spiritual master? Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasade. Paya. They bring what? The Bhakti Lata Beach. That is the second line of this very famous verse. In all of Brahmanda, you think, just on this little small property of land I have, how many living entities are there? I think 10, 15. How many billions, trillions go 1 foot below the earth? How many? How many blades of grass and trees and all living entities? Just on this small parcel of land. Now taking this city, how many living entities? Then the state, the country. This is just one of unlimited planets within this universe. And how many universes are there? Does it explain that? As many grains of sand as there are on a beach, each grain representing a universe, that many universes there are, is unlimited. When you pick up a handful of sand, you cannot even count them. Now think about a mile-long beach. Within each grain of sand is this giant universe with an unlimited number of living entities. And out of all of those, very few are fortunate to have received the Bhakti Lata Beach. Our Shastra explains that the probability of meeting a pure devotee of the Lord is the equivalent probability of a turtle who is swimming in the ocean and is coming towards the top of the water to acquire some air. It's a giant ocean. And exactly where the turtle is about to break the plane of water, one log is coming over the turtle's head. The probability of that happening. Not only that, the exact point at which the turtle breaks the plane of water and this log is over, there is a hole in that log. Not just that. That hole is exactly the size of the turtle's head and he gets stuck in it. The probability of that happening is the probability of a living entity coming in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord. Now, how fortunate are we? I know, looking at everybody has come in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord. This is the Guru Krishna Prasad. By the mercy of Krishna, one achieves the spiritual master. And by the mercy of spiritual master, one achieves Krishna. And this is where the Bhakti Lata Beach starts. This is where it begins. It is planted in the heart. So then what? We're all set? I met the spiritual master, offered my pranams, asked for blessings. I'm good? Good? All set?
That's the beginning.
That's the beginning. When you go into the garden and you plant a seed, that's it, you're done?
You have to water it.
You have to water it. And what else do you have to do? Sunshine. You have to take care of it. You have to cultivate it. So what do we have to do with our Bhakti Lata? We have to cultivate it. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, when a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it. by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravana and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. So, every activity we get starts with some seed, some bija. This bhakti bija is the greatest fortune one can have. Far, far beyond winning the lottery or something mundane like that. This is the greatest of fortune. And that seed is there. And now what are we supposed to do with it? Help it grow. We have to cultivate it. Just being, oh, it's there, I'll see you next year. And what is the cultivation process? Shravanam and Kirtanam. And what is Shravanam? Hearing. And Kirtanam? Chanting. These are the watering processes of the bija. And then what happens? Krishna explains that the creeper, what is a creeper? It's like a vine. Right? Prabhupada explains, in the material world, a vine, it grows attached to some stake or something. It needs some support to grow. It cannot grow independently. Right? So it climbs some tree or some stake or some side of a house. Right? You've seen? That's how a vine grows. It needs support. But the bhakti lata, this creeper, it is spiritual. It needs no material support. So it starts to grow. And we know the more you water a plant, what happens? The more it grows. So the more we hear and the more we chant, the bhakti lata grows. Where is it going? Where is it growing?
To Krishna's feet.
Ultimately to Krishna's feet. So this lata, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, as one waters the bhakti lata beans, the seed sprouts. It first has to sprout. It has to awaken. And the creeper gradually grows to the point where it penetrates the walls of this universe. So think about that grain of sand that we are sitting within. First it has to penetrate this roof. Then it has to go up into the sky. Right? And where does the sky end? Into space. And it has to grow. And then, ultimately, it'll reach the covering of the universe, which is gigantic and beyond our conception. It's explained in Srimad Bhagavatam how big it is. And there are the 8 coverings of the universe. So the bhakti lata has to cross through each of the 8 coverings. It keeps growing and growing and growing. And it penetrates the walls of this universe and goes beyond the Viraja river, which is lying between the spiritual world and the material world. What separates the spiritual and material world is the Viraja river. So the lata keeps growing. This vine keeps growing. It attains Brahma Loka, the Brahman effulgence. And it keeps going. It penetrates through that stratum and it reaches the spiritual sky and the spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavan. Being situated in one heart and being watered by Shravana Kirtana, the bhakti creeper grows more and more. In this way it attains the shelter of the desire tree of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is eternally situated in a planet known as Goloka Vrindavan, the topmost region in the sky. So it goes from the Viraja river into the Brahma Jyotir, the Brahman effulgence. And from there it continues, it keeps going further and further into all of the different Vaikuntha lokas. How many Vaikuntha lokas are there? Unlimited. And from there it keeps going further and further and further. And ultimately it breaks into which loka? Goloka. And who is residing in Goloka? Krishna. This is the topmost region of the spiritual sky. Of all, there's even variety in the spiritual world. There is variety. And the topmost region of the spiritual world is Goloka Vrindavan. And in Brahma Samhita we see this being explained by Lord Brahma. Right? So this continues to grow. Where does it go once it reaches Vrindavan? Goloka Vrindavan. It continues to grow and grow and grow. By what process? Shravanam Kirtan. And ultimately, where does it reach? Krishna's feet. The lotus feet of Krishna. And then what happens? The creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet. And there it produces, what does it produce? The fruits of love for Krishna. And that is where Krishna Prema comes. When this Bhakti Lata reaches the lotus feet of Krishna, then a fruit buds. And what is that fruit? Love of God. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. Every verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, watering with hearing and chanting, Shravanam and Kirtanam. Do we think Shravanam and Kirtanam has some importance in our bhakti process? Right? So this fruit, and then ultimately the fruit falls from the tree, and it says, and the devotee tastes this fruit, and one becomes Machita Madgata Prana, fully immersed, having tasted the sweetness of Krishna. That fruit is so sweet that whatever else mundane that may be can't even register in one's consciousness. It's so attractive. So how did we get from the seed that was planted? How did the seed come? How did we get the seed of bhakti? From Guru and Krishna. When the Paramatma in the heart sees the desire of the jiva to become awakened to our eternal position, then Krishna sends his external representative, who is the spiritual master, the Guru, into our life. We don't even have to go out and search. Krishna is seeing the desire of the jiva. Krishna Prasade, he gives the mercy. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. And from that, Bhakti Lata Bija. And by what process do we help it grow? By Shravanam Kirtanam. Are we guaranteed success?
Yes.
No. Oh, trick question. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. A very mature 10-year-old vine. How easy is it to snip it? Difficult? Easy. A tree, 10-year-old tree, how easy is it to snip it? Not very hard. The trunk becomes big and thick and strong, right? But a vine, a lata, it is eternally fragile. You may think, oh, I've been in bhakti for 10 years. I'm set. I'm good. It is not a vriksha. It is not a tree. It is a lata. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, as a mad elephant can quickly snap a vine, like that. What can snap our vine? Break our creeper? Offenses. So one must avoid the offenses. Right? So how to avoid the offenses? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then says, the gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it around. That sorry, let me read again. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. What do we do when we have a new plant? We put a fence around it. Right? Why do we put a fence around it? To protect it. So that it can grow undisturbed. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, you have received the bija. It is sprouted. You are starting to hear and chant. But protect that creeper. Put a fence around it. So what do? Buy some wire from Home Depot and put a fence around our heart and walk around like this? What is the fence? Association.
The four precepts.
Yeah, it's following the principles and association. So association with the pure devotee, it protects us from the offenses. So that is why Srila Prabhupada established this whole International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to give an opportunity for association so that the offenses will roam away. Right? And of course there are many offenses, but we have the 10 offenses to the chanting of the holy names. And we should know those very, very clearly. In the interest of time, we won't discuss them. But, we should be very careful to blaspheme the devotee, right? To disobey the orders of the spiritual master, to consider the glories of chanting as imagination, to commit sins on the strength of chanting. Think, I'm in bhakti. I have a license to sin because Krishna says, Aham tam sarva papebhyo. I'm good. Major to commit sins on the strength of bhakti. No good. So these offenses we must avoid. And how do we ensure that we avoid them? We stay in the association. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, abandon all worldly association. Why? Because it is going to inspire us to offensive behavior. But by engaging in good association, we become inspired to take to the practice of devotional service. Like the pure devotee, whose minds are fully dwelling in Krishna. And what is the pure devotee doing? Katyantas chamam nityam, bodhayantas parasparam. Constantly discussing and having Krishna katha. So there will be no scope for us to deviate if we have good association. So the fence, the protective mechanism of our bhakti is association. It is so critical in our process of devotional service. Right? So are we done? We have the fence, we have the seed, we are watering it. Are we good? No, you probably know the answer. Yeah. Are we done? No? What else? Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. What is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comparing this to? In a garden, what else do we have? Weeds. And when you water the garden, what are you watering? Weeds as well. So one is watering both the desired plant and these weeds. So when we are hearing and chanting also, we are watering the creeper. But if there are unwanted creepers, they are also growing. So what happens? See how beautiful Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining this process? So perfectly. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. Diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. If one does not distinguish between the bhakti lata creeper and other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused. Because other creepers are nourished while the Bhaktivedanta creeper is curtailed. What happens if we don't take the weeds out of the garden?
It will take up all the resources.
They overtake.
Yeah.
They take all the water, all the resources. Right? So what does a good gardener do?
Take out the weeds.
Takes out the weeds. So they plant the seed, they put a fence, they water it, and they remove the weeds. Right? So as soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the Bhaktivedanta, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. So, in the practice of devotional service, we must do hearing and chanting, Shravana and Kirtan. We must protect the creeper from the offenses, like protect it from the mad elephant of Vaishnava pride, by remaining in association with devotees. That is the fence. And we must remove the unwanted things from the heart. Unwanted desires, these anarthas. We must pluck them out so that our watering process, our chanting and hearing, will nourish the desired seed, the Bhaktivedanta. And so the instructive point here is that we don't just practice our devotional service without understanding, one, it's an extraordinarily rare gift we've been given. Out of millions and millions and billions of living entities just within this small parcel of land. We said how rare it is. Chaitanya already established it. So we appreciate its importance. And then we understand it must be growing. First, how we got it. By the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And then we water it, protect it, and remove the anarthas. So all these things we must try to be, when we progress in devotional service, sometimes these things, this desire for, position and pride and these envy of other devotees and these other anarthas, these negative tendencies come up. So we must find them, see them, be able to distinguish. The gardener knows which is the plant and which is the weed, and skillfully cut them out immediately. Right? And that is why the important process of devotional service is we must follow. As soon as we stop following, we start acting on our own accord. We lose visibility. We don't see right from wrong. And that's why Prabhupada says, one should not run out and think, okay, I am now mature. Remember, your bhakti is a vine. No matter how many years mature, snip, gone. So instead, we should protect it with this good association. Yes?
When people talk about, devotees falling, are they talking about our creeper falling?
You can say that, yeah, that might be a figurative way of speaking about it, but it means that the devotee has, fallen from the platform of bhakti. Bhakti is a very high platform. But Krishna says, my devotee never perishes. So if we see a devotee fall, we should not think, oh, this is a fallen devotee. No, we should have great compassion. Think, no, it is also Krishna's lost child. He has performed great service. Krishna will also bring them back. Because Krishna says, my devotee never perishes. He tells Arjuna, you declare it boldly. As long as that devotee remains committed in devotional service. So, when the fruit of devotional service becomes ripe and falls down, the gardener tastes the fruit and thus takes advantage of the creeper and reaches the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. There the devotee serves the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to wish-fulfilling trees. With great bliss, he tastes the juice of the fruit of love and becomes eternally happy. So this verse continues. This section, these verses we read, just for reference, is 150. Madhya Lila, chapter 19, verses roughly 150 we started, to 165. Highly encouraged to read these verses. Very important. The purport Srila Prabhupada gives are exquisite. They're a little bit long, but they're very detailed and very inspiring for us. Particularly if you've been practicing Krishna consciousness for some time, sometimes we fail to appreciate the significance of it and how we have to continue to cultivate it. It's got to go a long way, right? How far it has to go? It has to go a long way. So the Shravanam Kirtanam process must be done with association, removing the weeds and removing these unwanted things. And with that, the fruit will come. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed to come. And when one does, full bliss and happiness. And that is what Krishna is trying to inspire us in this 10th chapter. He's saying that when you become factually convinced of the sweetness of this fruit, you will do nothing else but seek to acquire this fruit. And that fruit is love of God. Acquiring fame, acquiring wealth, acquiring even mukti, liberation, is nothing compared to acquiring the fruit of love of Krishna. So, this 19th chapter is very, very nice. You can read it. And hopefully all of you have Chaitanya Charitamrita and are reading it. If not, you should acquire it today. Tonight, you should acquire it and take it home. It is just full of nectar. So sweet. Any questions or comments? Nothing? Everybody is stunned, silent. Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So, like you said, it's very, it's a blessing to have connection with that devotee who is so much into that. So somebody's who's the wine is growing so much. When you see that person or devotee in actual life, how you will be like, how you will know that that person, what kind of routine or activity or attitude or behavior you will see. I know we have that chapter about devotee, how you will know as somebody's devotee. I know we have that. But somebody who has grown so much into that path, how you will be, how you will know?
Krishna just gave us the characteristics. How you know? They're fully absorbed in Krishna. That is the characteristic.
I mean, they're in the world and they must be doing their normal activity too.
What is normal?
Like, going to work and taking care of children.
So then what is abnormal?
But if somebody who is that far in that path, how you will know that person has moved on so much?
You'll know by observing the symptoms of such a person. Right? The symptoms of a pure devotee are described throughout Shastra. Right? Rupa Goswami opens the nectar of instruction with this Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. Jiva Vegam Udaro Pashto Vegam. These 6 Vegams. They have controlled the urges to speak, the urges of anger, of the mind, of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. They have controlled all of them. That person is qualified to make disciples.
Right.
And
like when you go to temple or anywhere, you'll see everybody's engaged in those services or bhakti. But somebody's far and somebody's going there, but somebody's that far that wine is growing so much,
But why do we want to know?
Because that's an association.
Okay. Okay.
Somebody's looking for association or somebody want to feel good or just be happy.
Okay.
I am associating
Okay.
with a devotee. like that.
So, the Mahatma, the highest devotee, they see everybody as devotees. And they serve all of them. If we go into the temple with the mindset that, oh, this is a low devotee, this is a high devotee, then our anarthas, our contaminated heart becomes difficult. So instead we go with the mindset that I would like to render service to all devotees. Anyone who's uttered the name Krishna once, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, is a Vaishnava. He says not even uttered, anybody who's heard it even once. Prabhupada was once asked by a reporter, how many pure devotees you have in your movement? And he asked his secretary, how many members we have? he gave some number. Prabhupada said, this how many pure devotees? Secretary didn't say anything. After he left, he said, Prabhupada, so many people just joined yesterday. How they are pure?
We don't differentiate.
He said, on a mango tree, there are many buds, and there are also some ripe mangoes. Those buds will also become ripe mangoes in time. So to me, they are all pure.
That's very encouraging, Prabhuji. Thank you.
That is the... But that bud doesn't become ripe on its own. They must water the... It has to be an active cultivation. If we think it's just going to happen in time, that's just like our child saying, yeah, I'll learn calculus in time. If they do that, study,
Practice.
cultivate it.
Yeah.
Cultivate the knowledge of calculus, we'll say. But when it comes to bhakti, oh, when Krishna wants, then I'll become devotee. When Krishna's mercy comes, then I'll get it. Krishna's mercy is there. What are we doing to cultivate it? The seed has been given. It's there. And now it's up to us to desire whether we're going to cultivate it or not. Thinking, oh, in time it'll happen? No. That is the farmer thinking, oh, in time the plants will grow. I'll just look at it, maybe it'll grow.
We have to plant the seed.
We have to plant it, we have to cultivate it, we have to protect it, we have to remove the weeds. We have to work at it. We have to work at it. And that is why we have to chant the holy names of the Lord every day. Why we speak about the quality of chanting. That is the quality of watering. Isn't there good quality watering and bad quality watering? Right? If you just spray water on a delicate plant with this huge force, you'll destroy the plant. So you have to apply water intelligently. So similarly, our chanting should be done with great concentration, with great focus. Done, not just mechanically, no, with the intent to please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. This desire to cultivate this bhakti lata. With that mood, then that kripa will grow very nicely. Right? Hearing. We can come and hear all we want. But are we hearing with a desire, with an intentive purpose to hear? Right? You can hear. So you see people hear for decades, but there's not a transformation in the heart. So it's not a passive thing of hearing and chanting, it's an active. Of course, any hearing, any chanting is beneficial. It's beneficial. But if we want to accelerate the growth of our creeper, then we know what to do. Good hearing, good chanting. You have a question?
Oh, you answered it.
Oh.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I have a kind of question in a way that, isn't it said that a Vaishnava doesn't take an offense?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's somebody who makes an offense, how does it even become an offense if it's, the devotee doesn't take it as an offense?
Because Krishna takes it as an offense. Krishna cannot tolerate one of his children being offended. You can offend Krishna, he doesn't mind. But don't mess with one of his children. Just like if someone can insult you, you don't care. But somebody messes with Tulsi, doesn't work that way. Right? Even if she doesn't take offense, you'll take offense. If it's offensive. Right? So,
That's the number one offenses, right?
yeah,
Like devotee offenses.
Vaishnava Prad is
Vaishnava Prad, yeah.
Hatamata.
Yeah.
Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, a mad elephant, not just an elephant who can trample, a mad elephant is offense to the devotee. And he taught in his pastimes over and over and over again this danger of Vaishnava Prad. So we should be very careful. And if we are humble, no Vaishnava Prad. Yeah, we may make mistakes, but if we take a humble position, when we make a mistake, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. But out of ego, I wasn't wrong, you were wrong. Who are you to judge me? I'm a more senior devotee. I've been here 5 years, you've been here 4 years. We pull out our credentials. Here's who I am. That's useless. Krishna doesn't say, my pure devotee has many years of service. He doesn't say, my pure devotee has the nice tilak that goes all the way up to the top of the head and the leaf is perfect. He doesn't say, my pure devotee sings bhajans with the perfect melody. What does he say? My pure devotee's thoughts dwell in me. Their whole life is absorbed in me. That is the pure devotee. That is the pure devotee. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to sing sometimes his kirtans out of tune on purpose. Why? To show. Don't get attracted to the musical tones. This is the holy names that we should put our attraction to. Okay. Anything else?
Very nice.
This Chaitanya Charitamrita is so practically instructive. Everything in here is so beautifully explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very vivid examples, right? Like this planting. You couldn't make a more vivid example that he's giving. And that's why Prabhupada quoted this in the purport. He summarized. Now if you read this purport, you'll see it's a full summary of this section of chapter 19. So it's very, very nice. Okay, so let us try to do some watering. We just did some by Shravanam, hearing from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's presentation, and now we'll do some chanting. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Koti Vaishnavinda.
Shri Nitya Krishna Prabhu ki
Jai.
Jai.